The American Revolutionary War from 1775 to 1783, our revolution, was one of the only revolutions in history where we defeated our enemies, took power, then created a document that will disempower our own leaders. That document is the Constitution, and in the Constitution lies our Second Amendment. The Second Amendment reads, "A well-trained militia being necessary to the security of the free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed." Today I want to warn you about why additional gun control laws are dangerous for this nation. This is important to me because I served 4.5 years in the U.S. Army, and I have been trained in the use of firearms, so I have a deep understanding and respect for them. I will be talking about how gun control is not good for personal defense. I will mention some statistics, and I will talk about how it affects us all at the national level. First, I want to start by mentioning two stories. The first one is about a woman named Susanna Hupp. She is a legal gun owner in the state of Texas, and she survived a mass shooting in 1991. In 1991, she was having lunch with her parents in Killeen, Texas, when a man crashed his truck through the front window of a restaurant. The man gets out of his truck, pulls his gun, and starts shooting the patrons. Instinctively, Susanna reaches for her purse and tries to grab her gun. But at the time, Texas laws prohibited civilians from carrying guns in public places, so she didn't have it on her. The gunman turns towards her family, and her father gets up and rushes him to subdue him, but he is shot in the chest and is killed. Her mother runs to her husband's aid, and she in turn is shot in the head and is killed. Susanna escapes through a broken window. That day, the gunman goes on to kill 23 people, including himself, and wounds an additional 20. This massacre leads Texas to change their laws to allow all qualified applicants to be issued a concealed carry license. Susanna later said that she would rather be in prison with a felony offense if it meant that her parents would live. The second story is about another woman named Amanda Collins. Amanda is a student at the University of Nevada, Reno. In 2007, and she's also a legal gun owner. In 2007, on her way to her car from a night class, she was attacked at gunpoint and raped by a man. Her school is a gun-free zone, so she didn't bring her gun with her. But this gun-free designation at her university meant nothing to her attacker. It only made her an easy target. So I share with you these stories to illustrate how the gun control laws hurt law-abiding citizens. Criminals, by definition, will not follow current laws, let alone additional laws. A man named Bill Whittle made a great point when he used the analogy that there are two types of animals in this world: predators and prey. No one watches the leopard chase a gazelle and denies the gazelle's right to defend itself with its horns. But there are some people in this country that believe that by cutting off the horns of the gazelle, by making it easier for the leopard would just turn around and stop and go away. So now I want to move on to some statistics. But first, I want to mention that today in our country, we are currently having a debate on a ban of assault weapons. For those who don't know, assault weapons are military-style weapons like the M16 or the M4 that our military uses. But the FBI reports that in this country we have roughly 14,000 murders per year. Of those 14,000, 9,000 come from firearms. Of those 9,000, only 300 come from rifles and assault rifles. But that's what's up for debate. That 300 out of the 14,000 murders per year is what we're debating about. But no one debates the 6,000 murders that come from handguns. No one's debating the 1,500 that come from knives, or the 700 that comes from hands, fists, and feet. The CDC states that 88,000 Americans die per year from excessive alcohol abuse, and an additional 98,000 are killed from medical malpractice. But no one wants to limit doctors, and certainly no one wants to ban alcohol again. After all, that's where we get our 18th and 21st Amendments. So gun control is not about guns. It's actually about control. One of our founding fathers, George Mason, said, "To disarm the people, that is the best and most effectual way to enslave them." And this brings me to my final point, which is gun control on a larger scale. The Ottoman Empire, 1915, they begin what is known as the Armenian Genocide. The first thing they did was they took guns from Armenian soldiers and then marched the soldiers off into labor camps where they are worked to death. Then they send Turkish soldiers to Armenian homes and confiscate all weapons. The civilians are then rounded up, led out of the cities, and then are slaughtered. 1.5 million of the total 2 million Armenian population that was there are murdered. That's 3/4 of the entire Armenian population. Fast forward to Nazi Germany, 1933. Hitler comes to power, and the Nazis conduct a massive search and seizure of all weapons owned by Jews and political opponents. And this lasts until November of 1938, on a night when Hitler decides to start the extermination of the Jews. And that night was called Kristallnacht, or the Night of Broken Glass. And this was easy for the Nazis to accomplish because by this time they have already disarmed most of the Jews, so they had little to no resistance. China, 1934 to 1976. Communists banned private gun ownership. 45 million are killed. Mao Zedong, the communist leader of China, states that political power grows from the barrel of a gun. Cambodia, 1975 to 1979. The leader Pol Pot strengthens gun control laws, and then he murders 2 million of his own people. His targets were political opponents and educated people, students included. Now these are just a few examples of what governments can do to their own people. More people in the last 100 years have died at the hands of their own government than by all world wars combined. And this is the sole reason why our founding fathers added the Second Amendment. And if you remember, they end the Second Amendment with the words, "shall not be infringed," meaning our right to defend ourselves against government tyranny can never be up for debate. So in conclusion, it is easy to think that this will never happen to us, that our government will never do this to us. But our Constitution was written in favor of the people. It gave power to the people, not the government. So today we have roughly around 90 million legal and responsible gun owners in the United States. So no sane government, foreign or domestic, would dare challenge that and go up against that. That is the power of the Second Amendment. So we can't let ourselves pick apart this Second Amendment by banning this or banning that, because over time we'll eventually have no Second Amendment that we can use to defend ourselves. Thank you.
Andre, what did you think?
I thought his intro was good. I liked the 2 stories he told in the beginning about gun control, and I agree with him on the part where it's more on the control part. And I think he overall had a good speech.
Okay. Yeah, Josh, I think you've got a good visualization of the historical context at the beginning, a very clear statement of your purpose. You laid out the secondary points, but I'll tell you what, it sounds to me a little bit like the secondary points are mostly data points instead of claims, and so you're structuring evidence instead of structuring your arguments, and I think you need the evidence to support the argument, so you need to be a little bit clearer as to what all of the evidence is going to prove, and use those as the skeleton for your argument. I like the examples that you had. You do want to give us source citations on some of the information, especially the data on all of the historical examples that you provide, which I think there's probably a lot of consistent information on, but there also needs to be some documentation of those particular points. The parallel cases, there's some analogy that you are drawing to problems with alcohol and with other sources of death in the country and how we're not reacting to those kinds of things. Well, there are regulations on a lot of those kinds of things, and the inference that you seem to be making is that any regulation is an infringement. I'm not sure that people would accept that as easily. I think the argument that additional infringements would be problematic, and the example from Bill Whittle is an interesting point. This kind of metaphor of the antelope defending itself. I thought that was kind of interesting. The descriptions are good. Your delivery, I tell you what, it sounds very fluent and smooth when you're talking. Your voice is effective. Your eye contact's a little inconsistent because you are doing a lot more reading than you want. All right, thank you.